And tonight, in a few minutes, we'll check in with Newt Gingrich, Laura Ingraham, Lou Dobbs will all join us. This rift in the Republican Party needs to stop, and they need to get their act together and keep their promises. But first, more on the developing story that we told you about last night surrounding former Obama official Dr. Evelyn Farkas and the Obama surveillance of the Trump transition team. Tonight, brand new information on the shocking public acknowledgement that she made earlier this month on a TV show that former Obama officials is now raising a lot of eyebrows all around the country. That's tonight's opening monologue. All right, last night on this program, we showed you a video of a former Obama official, Evelyn Farkas, from earlier this month, saying that she urged her former colleagues and people on the Hill to get as much information and intelligence as they could on the Trump team before President Obama left office. Now, on March 2nd, during an NBC interview, Dr. Farkas, who served in the Obama administration from 2012 through 2015 as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia, Ukraine, Eurasia, listen to these comments very, very closely. Listen.
I was urging my former colleagues and frankly speaking, the people on the Hill, it was more actually aimed at telling the Hill people, get as much information as you can, get as much intelligence as you can before President Obama leaves the administration, because I had a fear that somehow that information would disappear with the senior people who left. So it would be hidden away in the bureaucracy, that the Trump folks, if they found out how we knew what we knew about the Trump staff's dealing with Russians, that they would try to compromise those sources and methods, meaning we would no longer have access to that intelligence. So I became very worried because not enough was coming out into the open, and I knew that there was more. We have very good intelligence on Russia. So then I had talked to some of my former colleagues, and I knew that they were trying to also help get information to the Hill.
How we knew what we knew about the Trump staff's dealing with Russia. All right, let's deal with what Evelyn Farkas is saying here. First, she's admitting what we've been saying, what Sarah Carter, John Solomon, James Rosen have all been saying. Surveillance took place. Take a watch.
It was more actually aimed at telling the Hill people, get as much information as you can, get as much intelligence as you can before President Obama leaves the administration, because I had a fear that somehow that information would disappear with the senior people.
Oh, that's the intelligence she wants her friends on Capitol Hill to get. Is that the information she's talking about? Now, next, she admits there was unmasking. That shouldn't happen. Watch.
That the Trump folks, if they found out how we knew what we knew about the Trump staff's dealing with Russians, that they would try to compromise those sources and methods, meaning we would no longer have access to that intelligence.
Intelligence, unmasking, surveillance. Now, she also admitted that intelligence leaking was taking place. And by the way, in case some of you people don't know, that could very well be a felony. Take a look.
I became very worried because not enough was coming out into the open, and I knew that there was more. We have very good intelligence on Russia. So then I had talked to some of my former colleagues, and I knew that they were trying to also help get information to the Hill.
How did you know there was intelligence? You were out of the administration. How did Evelyn Farkas, a former Obama administration official, a private citizen working for the Hillary Clinton campaign, know about the surveillance and intelligence? Well, during an interview on CNBC earlier today, Farkas, well, she seemed to be walking back and changing her tune. Watch her contradict her own self. Straight ahead.
People are accusing you, Evelyn, of admitting that there was surveillance, admitting that there was unmasking, and urging people, or at least saying that intelligence leaking, which could be a felony, is the way that it should get out. And you weren't even part of the government at that point.
No, so I was referring to the motivation, because there had been a lot of discussion in the media about why are people leaking. And so I was trying to, but in a very shorthand fashion, explain at the very end of that quote that people were leaking because they were afraid of a cover-up. I do not, absolutely do not condone leaking. You know, it's against the law.
Wait a minute. She said earlier, get as much intelligence as you can. Get it up to the Hill, to our friends. So now opposing leaking, even though earlier this month she was obviously claiming to encourage it. Now, Farkas also played dumb on what information she was referring to. Watch this walk back. This is interesting.
Sean Hannity and others have made a big issue of this, and I wanted you to just explain what you meant by that, and in particular, when you talked about if they found out how we knew. What do you mean by how we knew?
Well, what I was getting at was the fact that we were having now a transition of power from the Obama administration to the Trump administration. And if indeed there was an investigation ongoing, if indeed there was information that the Obama administration had about Russian interference and possible American involvement, I wanted to make sure that Congress knew about it.
Were there specific pieces of information that you're concerned would disappear?
No, I did not know what the information was or I suspected that they had information. Again, knowing what I know about our intelligence community, they're very professional. They have a very good eye on Russia.
If indeed, now she says, if it's suspected, but wait a minute, this is the same woman that said if, meaning the Trump folks, found out how we knew what we knew. Not if it happened, if they knew what we knew about the Trump staff dealing with Russians. Now, try as she might, Dr. Farkas cannot walk back her original comments. And today, we have also uncovered an interview that Dr. Farkas did back in February with Vox before that appearance on NBC. She was asked by Ezra Klein what her, quote, level of alarm was after Flynn's resignation. Here's Farkas's response, quote, well, it's lower than it's been since the summer when I was first made aware of all this stuff. I'm like, finally, everybody else sees it. Seriously? The reason I was so upset last summer was that I was getting winks and hints from inside that there was something really wrong here. I was agitated because I knew the Clinton campaign and the world didn't know. But I didn't think it would happen this fast. I didn't think Flynn would survive a year, but I thought it would be most of the year. Well, did she know about Flynn, the intelligence that eventually got leaked that took him out? What is she talking about here? Anyway, who was giving her the winks and the hints over the summer? Now, I'm just asking questions based on her own words. Here's where it gets interesting. Today, during another interview on MSNBC, Farkas said she's now the victim of fake news because we play her entire comment in context. I'm not kidding. Watch this.
And on the dark campaign of fake news, that's still ongoing. We see even someone like myself get swept up in all of this.
Right.
When people like me are speaking on behalf of process, people spin it to suit their needs. And I think it may be that the Russians are behind even such fake news today.
Maybe the Russians put these words in my mouth asking about surveillance, unmasking, and leaking intelligence. I'm simply asking questions based on what she said, as other members of the mainstream media, by the way, continue to ignore the facts in this case. The media doesn't want to focus on this today. Oh, no, they want to focus on the New York Times headline that came out late this afternoon. 2 White House officials help give Nunes intelligence reports. Now, the headline is deceptive, obscure, and I would argue purposely dishonest. If you read further into the report, it isn't really a story. It just says the official, quote, played a role. Now, tonight I'm calling on the intel community, stop being distracted by the hate Trump media, destroy Trump media. The Attorney General, General Sessions, needs to convene a grand jury. And the only thing we know for sure is that the intel was leaked about retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. That is a felony. That is a crime. And as for Dr. Farkas, well, we need to know what she knew about the unmasking, about the surveillance, and when she knew it, and who she was communicating with, and who was giving her the information. And what did she know also about leaking or getting the information to her friends on the Hill? Here with reaction, the author of the bestseller Treason, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. You can't write a novel like this, Mr. Speaker, and you write really good novels. I've read them.
I keep trying, and I got to say, reality is outstripping my fiction.
Yeah.
This is so convoluted now, so many different angles. Such weird behavior. I mean, one of the things I mentioned to you the other day, why would you have a Republican chairman of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees define the question in a narrow way that only involves Trump, not bring in Bill Clinton's $500,000 from a Russian bank, not bring in Hillary Clinton's approval of sending 20% of uranium to Russia? I mean, I am for our looking at foreign influence in the American political governmental system. I think there's a grave danger that destroyed the Roman Republic of money just pouring in to corrupt the system. But I want to see it done fairly, out in the open, and I think it's very important that when people in either party are suspected that we have a fair and a transparent and open system. Right now, this is a one-sided witch hunt filled with allegations, and as you just pointed out,
no evidence.
When somebody blurts out the truth, a few days later, they're so scared, they try to walk the truth back, and they reject a recording of their own words. I mean, that tells you something about the level of fear on the left.
Well, was she's saying get as much intelligence to people on the Hill as you possibly can, and if they found out, meaning the Trump folks, if the Trump folks find out how we knew what we knew about their Trump staff dealing with Russians, there's no ambiguity there. We're not parsing our words. We're not slicing and dicing like Ted Koppel here. We're playing it in its entirety.
But wait a second. Remember this, too. The changes in the rules by the Obama team in January weren't about hard intelligence. The changes were about gossip, rumor, slander, on facts that could not be checked out. And they said, just distribute it to all the different agencies. And, oh, by the way, if that means it leaks, what the heck? So they weren't just trying to get hard information up to the Hill. And we have processes for that. We have 2 intelligence committees that you can brief. We have the House and Senate majority and minority leaders you can brief. I mean, there are a lot of ways for the intelligence community to get information to the Congress and keep it secret. This has been a blatant effort, I think, in the case of General Flynn to smear him. I think there are other things coming down the road. And so much of this is based on people who are committing felonies, breaking the law, in order to pursue a political agenda.
That's the only law that we actually can confirm has been violated here. That's a felony, the leaking of intelligence. But when you get to the issues, if we just use Evelyn Farkas's own words and what she said, she talks, my interpretation is very clear. She talks about surveillance of the Trump campaign, and if they knew what we knew and how we knew it. And then when she talks about unmasking, about the Trump folks, that would be unmasking. And then the next thing is, well, gather as much intelligence and get it to our friends on the Hill here. It seems to me that this has gone much deeper than anybody else in the media is willing to talk about. What should happen? What should happen with the intelligence community? Shouldn't they bring her in? Should a grand jury be convened?
Yes. Yeah, that's why I don't understand what the 2 intelligence communities are doing. I mean, I get the sense at least that Chairman Nunes is aware of the fact you have this entire wave of felonies that are occurring in the executive branch under the Obama administration. But I don't have a sense yet that Chairman Burr has the same understanding or is designing his hearing the same way. I mean, you clearly had here, first of all, the way she's describing it, this is a large, organized effort. I mean, this is not 1 or 2 random people going rogue. She talks about that we have to collectively get it up there. We have to get it to who? Presumably to Democrats on the Hill.
I can't believe she hasn't.
What's it about? It's not about Russians. It's not about hacking. It's efforts to understand the Trump team as they go through the transition plan.
All right, stay right there.
That clearly has to involve felonies.
It seems like it.